If you're an international student, one of the most critical aspects of your journey is understanding precisely how much you are legally permitted to work. This explainer will break down the official 2026 rules for several major global destinations. Knowing these limits is absolutely essential for protecting your visa and, by extension, your entire future abroad.
Now, before we proceed, a crucial disclaimer. This presentation is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute legal or immigration advice. While the information is accurate for the year 2026, you must understand that immigration laws are subject to change. It is your responsibility to verify all information with official government sources.
Let's begin by addressing a common and quite dangerous misconception: the belief that student work rules are somehow flexible. Many students operate under the assumption that the official hour limits are merely suggestions.
Another widespread myth is the idea that I can work as much as my schedule allows. The thinking here is that as long as classes are attended, the actual number of hours worked is not a serious issue. This, as we will see, is incorrect.
And finally, we have what is perhaps the most precarious assumption of all. I'll find a job first and sort out the visa details later. This approach places your student status in immediate jeopardy.
Let me be perfectly clear. This line of thinking is fundamentally incorrect. The work limits attached to your student visa are not suggestions. They are legally binding conditions.
Breaching these conditions can trigger a cascade of severe, long-term consequences. A single violation has the potential to impact your current visa status, jeopardize any future visa applications, block your eligibility for a post-study work permit, and even damage your chances for permanent residency in the future.
So you may ask, why do these strict limits exist in the first place? To understand compliance, it is important to first understand the official rationale behind these regulations. They are not arbitrary.
According to official government policies, these limits serve four primary functions. First, and most importantly, they ensure that your studies remain your primary purpose for being in the country. Second, they are designed to protect the domestic labor market. Third, they enforce the legal terms of your visa. And finally, they also serve to protect students from potential workforce exploitation.
Let us now examine the specific regulations and the corresponding penalties in two key destinations for international students, the United Kingdom and Canada.
In the United Kingdom, the rules are very precise. During your academic term, the absolute maximum is 20 hours of work per week. Full-time work is permitted, but only during officially scheduled academic breaks. And it's crucial to note that any form of self-employment or freelance work is strictly prohibited.
According to the official guidelines from the UK Home Office, violating these conditions can lead to severe penalties. For example, your visa could be curtailed, which means canceled. This can also lead to the refusal of any future visa applications to the UK and create significant difficulty in obtaining or extending a post-study work visa.
Moving on to Canada, you'll see the rules are quite similar. There's a maximum of 20 hours per week during regular academic sessions, with full-time work permitted during scheduled breaks. It is important to remember that any internship or co-op program must be an officially approved component of your studies.
Now, according to official guidance from Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, enforcement has become much stricter. This is because integrated government data systems can now link your immigration, tax, and employment records, making violations far easier to detect. The consequences are serious: refusal of future permits, forced revocation of your study permit, and even financial penalties for the employer.
Next, we will review the regulations that apply to international students in Australia and the United States.
Australia's approach is slightly different. The limit is 48 hours per fortnight. That is a 2-week period. While your course is in session, this averages out to 24 hours per week. During official term breaks, work hours are unlimited. This rule applies to all forms of work, including casual, contract, and freelance. The Australian Department of Home Affairs considers working even 1 hour over this limit to be a direct breach of your visa conditions. A breach of this nature is recorded and can negatively affect all future visa applications you make to Australia. It may also impact your eligibility for post-study graduate work rights.
The United States has what is arguably the most rigid system. For students on an F1 visa, on-campus work is capped at 20 hours per week during the semester. Any form of off-campus work is strictly prohibited unless you have received explicit prior authorization through programs directly tied to your studies, such as Curricular Practical Training or CPT and Optional Practical Training or OPT.
In the U.S., any unauthorized work, even just for 1 hour, is considered a severe status violation. The consequences can be immediate. They can include the termination of your SEVIS record, which is the government system that tracks your student status. This termination effectively invalidates your visa, placing you at a high risk of deportation and making future U.S. visa applications extremely challenging.
We will now turn our attention to the European Union. Here it is critical to understand that there is no single unified rule for student work hours. The regulations are determined at the national level of each member state.
To illustrate this variation, let's consider 2 examples. In Germany, a student is permitted to work for 120 full days or 240 half days per year. In France, the limit is calculated as a total of 964 hours per year. As you can see, the systems are quite different, which means you must research the specific rules for your host nation.
And while these rules do differ, the consequences for violating them are consistently serious throughout the European Union. A violation in one country can lead to a denial of work permit extensions. More critically, it can result in the refusal of future visa applications for any country within the entire Schengen area.
In conclusion, the central message of this explainer is unambiguous. Compliance with student visa work conditions is not optional. It is a legal mandate.
This brings us to a fundamental question that you must ask yourself. Is a short-term paycheck worth a permanent negative mark on your long-term immigration record? Based on the severe consequences we have detailed, the answer must be a clear and definitive no.
You must always consult the official government immigration website of your host country to obtain the most current and accurate information. Remember, this explainer serves an educational purpose and should never be considered a substitute for legal advice. Protect the significant investment you have made in your future by understanding and strictly adhering to the rules.